Bracing myself, I bring my bag in close and fold my arms tight. I wanted to close off my body language as much as possible. I really didn't want anyone trying to talk to me right now. All I wanted to do was get to the cafe and give Olivia a piece of my mind. Trust her to enact a body swap with me when I've met the girl of my dreams. She's such a dope. What's needed in this situation is some ground rules. I really like Rachel, and if she messes up anything with her, I'm going to be so mad. The cafe is only just down the street, sorta halfway between where I live and where Olivia is. It's not the nicest part of the city, but neither of us is rich. We both work menial jobs for large corporations. One of the reasons she's into body swapping with me is that we do the same type of job, just for different companies. It's easy for us to pretend to be each other. That's not saying it's easy to be the opposite gender, but I get through it. Strutting down the street as unfemininely as I could, I knew I was going to be late to the cafe. Getting ready this morning had taken me too long. I guess that's what happens when you're a guy who wakes up as a girl. I had no choice but to take the shortcut. Olivia had warned me to never go down this alleyway, but it was my only option. Standing at the entrance, between the two large buildings, I looked down the dark path towards the light at the end. If I missed my chance to set ground rules with her, I could lose my chance with Rachel forever. Reaching for Olivia's cell phone, I quickly snap her a picture message. "Sorry, Liv," I mutter as I take my first step down the darkened alleyway. "This is your doing." As the warmth of the morning sun disappears behind the towering buildings, I could feel the piercing cold. Almost felt like it was cutting straight through me. Olivia's body is very petite, after all. "Hey, sugar," a gruff male voice says, appearing from the darkness in the front. "Are you lost?" Stunned, I stop in my tracks. A large, rough-looking man steps out and blocks my path. His face is scarred and hairy, his clothes tatty and worn. "Not lost," I answer, with terror in my voice. Just wanting to get past." "Ooh, Harry," a slimy voice sings from just behind me. "This girl's got a good one." Startled, I quickly turn to see a skinnier guy slowly approaching me from the rear. Even though his clothing was just as ragged as the guy in front, the tattoo around his right eye was extremely distinctive. It was almost like the mark given to me when Olivia bonded our souls together. "What's her soul worth, Mike?" Harry, the large brute in the front, asks, licking his lips. Still watching the skinnier guy with the tattoo, he claps his hands together and gives a deviously wide grin. "There's something about this little lady," he says with delight. "Put it this way, Harry, our buyer is going to be very pleased." Now extremely worried, I hold my hands up and start backing away from him. Shaking through fear, I back up to the brick wall of the alleyway and find myself surrounded. "Guys," I mutter, now terrified of what they are going to do to me and Olivia's body. "If it's money you're after, you can just have my bag." With my arms trembling, I hold out Olivia's bag. They both shake their heads and step ever closer. I could see the sinister delight in their eyes as they cornered me like a lone sheep herded by wolves. "Stop it right now!" Familiar voice booms and echoes from down the alley. Looking over Harry's shoulder, I see Olivia pacing towards us with speed. She'd rolled up my sleeves and clearly was set on fighting to rescue me. "Get away from him right now!" Olivia screams with my voice as they both turn to face her. The two guys stand side by side as Olivia approaches courageously. "Is this kid worth anything?" Harry asks, as he cracks his neck and prepares for a fight. "Nah," Mike responds in annoyance. "His is a soul manipulator. Could be worth something, but compared to the girl, I'd wager we are onto something bigger. Cracking his knuckles, Harry signals Mike towards me. Olivia stands, facing them, ready to fight for me. I could see the determination in her eyes. I wasn't sure if Olivia knew how to fight. I hope she's secretly a kung fu master. You get the girl, Harry demands. I will deal with this punk. Before I could even move, Mike quickly moves to intercept me. He presses his body up against mine and holds me pinned to the wall. Pressing his arm into my neck, I could hardly breathe. Knowing I had to fight with any strength, I kicked, punched, and screamed with all the might Olivia's body had to offer me. Quiet, little lady, he barks, pushing into my neck to stop me from moving. You're coming with us. That tasty soul of yours is going to fetch us a pretty penny. Struggling for air, I felt useless. I felt powerless to do anything. My limbs felt limp, and my vision blurred. Although terrified, I felt a deep anger welling up within me, like the spark of thousands of volts churning away within me. Little punk, I hear Harry yell, as I see Olivia take a punch directly to the face. The crack of the contact was enough to make anyone flinch. I watched as Olivia falls to the floor like a sack of potatoes. I could see the blood streaming from her nose. Harry showed her no mercy, and continued to kick my body repeatedly in the stomach. Stop! I managed to wheeze. Trapped against the wall, watching Olivia being continually beaten, that deep, intense rage boiled up within me, making my hair stand on end. I could feel a powerful static energy pulse surrounding my body. As sparks of brilliant light radiate from my body, the alleyway is set ablaze with arching bolts of lightning. Get off her! I yell, now pushing back with the force of 10,000 volts. Dazzling arcs of lightning now encasing my body. My rage had reached its point of no return. Harry! Mike screams out with pure terror. I don't know what's happening! Help! Seconds later, an intense bolt escapes from my fingertips and throws Mike against the opposite wall. The deafening crack of thunder that follows echoes against the solid walls and causes Harry to fall to his knees, clutching his ears. Blinded by my anger, I could feel this immense power surging through my veins. I wanted to make them both pay. Taking a step towards them both, the lightning sparks and crackles all around me, encasing my body and jumping in all directions. Let's get out of here! Mike cries, still winded from being tossed like a rag doll. Helping Harry to his feet, they look back at me with pure terror in their eyes. Allowing my rage to pool the storming energy into my arm, electricity sparks between my splayed fingers. I wanted them to feel my wrath, my rage, and the strange power that was going to allow that. Simon! Olivia cries out in desperation, weak from being beaten. Stop it! I barely hear her. All I could focus on was those creeps getting further and further away. I needed to strike now, before they get away. As the energy sparking between my fingertips intensifies, a brilliant, bright aurora fills the alleyway. I take aim, ready to unleash my full anger. Stop! Olivia screams, awkwardly getting to her feet. Holding her arms out, barely able to hold herself up, Olivia stands between us and looks deep into my eyes. Please, she pleads, blood dripping from her face to the floor. Please, stop! With Olivia blocking my sight, I could only stare at the desperation on her face. Clearly in pain, she's forcing herself to stop me with everything she has. Olivia, I mutter, with my vision blurring and the rage diminishing. Dropping to my knees with a thud, my body felt exhausted. It felt empty. With one last sparks of lightning streaming across my face, tears flood my eyes and run down my cheeks. "Olivia!" I cry out, almost unable to hold myself up. Stumbling over to me, she drops to her knees and wraps her arms tight around me. Now both sobbing, she rests her head against my shoulders. What was that just then?" she asks, with terror in her voice. Shaking my head, she holds me tighter. "What was that power?" she asks, clearly terrified of the answer. "Simon, who are you really?"